I chose this poem because I thought there'd be high schoolers here today, but are there? All right, well, I'll just tell you my anecdote then. I grew up in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which is a sort of, well, now it's a really depressed mill town, but it was pretty depressed when I grew up. And we had this chance to go to a program called Brown University Summer High School. And I got in between my sophomore and senior year, and though Providence was just a half a mile away, it might as well have been Tahiti. I mean, I was just so excited. And I went to take creative writing classes, and the teacher, who looking back now was probably a grad student of some sort, gave us this piece of writing. At the time, she didn't even tell us it was a poem. I didn't know it was a poem, but anyway, I'll just read it for you and then talk about it a little bit. Modifications by Ron Kirchie. When I was young and we were poor and I used to gripe about the food, my mother would say, "Eat what's in front of you and be thankful you ain't worse off." That didn't make much of an impression then, and after I left home, I didn't think any more about it except to make fun. You know how that goes. Then, a few months ago, I had a lot of trouble. Nothing that most people couldn't handle, but I'm not most people, and it wigged me out all but for good. The only way I held my junk shop life together was by remembering all the good old rules. So now I honor my father and mother like crazy, go to bed really early, take hundreds of stitches in time, but most of all, I eat what's put in front of me. Lately, I've eaten a lot of forks and things, and right now, there's a nice waitress in the hospital just because she didn't move her hand in time. It's too bad, but I've just got to have the rules to keep my arms and legs from flying off. So whenever I sit down, I think them over and chew 50 times and say, thank you, 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 thank you. So, and it's a great poem, right? And so I was thinking, of course, of Mary's talk about repetition and resonance, and I thought, uh-oh, I almost changed my poem, but it was too late. So anyway, I get this poem that I don't even know is a poem. I think basically she would pass out this and maybe short stories and talk about them, and we'd write, and it was just incredible, as you can imagine, something like coming to the Palm Beach Poetry Festival when you don't really know poetry's possibilities. So I was young and I loved it, and I kept this poem folded in my wallet. I would read it all the time. I had students in the drama club, will you read it? Just so I could see how they'd say the thank yous, and they'd go crazy, and thank you, they'd get really dramatic about it. And I felt like this poem said everything that I was feeling, that life was gonna be really scary. I wasn't like most people. I couldn't, I was gonna be one of those people that wasn't like most people, that something would send me careening. And it just, to me, was such a beautiful poem. And so I kept it folded in my wallet for years, not really thinking about Ron Kirchie, not knowing who Ron Kirchie was, never heard of him. And then my wallet was stolen. And I thought, oh my God, so now I hope that the person who stole my wallet would read this poem, but I don't know if he or she did, but anyway. So years later, I'm thinking about this poem, but I can't recreate it because unlike Carol, I didn't memorize it, which I should have. And so finally, I don't know, this is like 20 years fast forward, I see Ron Kirchie's name in a literary magazine. I buy all his books looking for this poem. It's nowhere. So then email comes around, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look him up, and I say, I think you wrote a poem that had 13 thank yous at the end. And he said, oh yeah, I did, but I kept no copy of it. Because back in the day, he said it was probably 1978, which sounded about right for me to be, it was probably this young TA had this literary magazine called the Wormwood Review. And finally, last year, someone put it up online again, because I just once a year would Google and see if it came up. So I wrote to Ron Kirchie and gave him the link, and he said, yeah, I guess it's not bad. So that's my little story. But I think it's a terrific poem, and I'm so glad that it's sort of, I think, my talk was about collaboration, and so many collaborative poems are just sort of ephemeral and they're lost in literary journals. And I think one of my projects is to find forgotten poems. And I'm like, Ron, you got to put it in another book. And I don't know if he will. So keep a copy of this because it might be hard to find. Thank you.